What is going on, everybody, and welcome back. We are finally back for another episode of the A24 Archive, and this is the segment on my channel where I go through A24's entire catalog from start to finish and watch every movie that they've ever produced. And I'm in the 40s range now. I think this is like the 42nd movie in their catalog that I've watched, and this is a movie I have seen a few times, and the reason for that is because it's from director Barry Jenkins, who is a director I really love a lot. This movie won Best Picture at the Academy Awards, and I'm really looking forward to talking about it today. And the movie I'm going to be discussing is Moonlight. Moonlight is directed by Barry Jenkins, the tender, heartbreaking story of a young man's struggle to find himself, told across 3 defining chapters in his life as he experiences the ecstasy, pain, and beauty of falling in love while grappling with his own sexuality. So, as I said, I've watched this movie a few times before. This is either the 3rd or 4th time I've watched this movie. I've watched it a few times, and I absolutely adore this movie. I think Barry Jenkins is an absolutely phenomenal director, and what's interesting is this was my 3rd time revisiting it, and every time before, I don't give you guys star ratings normally, but I've given this movie a 4.5 star because I typically have problems with the 3rd act, and I don't think that the 3rd act lives up to just how strong and powerful the first 2 acts of the film are. But I watched it this time and I ended up giving it 5 stars this watch around because the amount of emotional weight that this film carries and the amount that I feel by the end of it it's just such an incredible experience. So well done for Barry Jenkins, especially early in his career. I think this is his 2nd feature. His first one isn't talked about as much. I can't remember the name of it. I still haven't seen it yet. And then I loved If Beale Street Could Talk. So in the film, we're introduced to Jharrel, who is this young kid living at home with his mother. We're shown really early on in the film his mother has issues with drug abuse. She's not always home on time. He's pretty much raising himself. We're introduced to Mahershala Ali's character Juan, who lives at home with Janelle Monáe's character Teresa. 2 really take a liking to him, and they spend a lot of time with him. They pretty much are just watching to make sure that he's okay, and they assume that his home life isn't all that it's cracked up to be. And throughout the film, we get that segment of his life. Then we jump forward to his teenage years. I think he's like 16 or 17. And then we jump forward to his adult years, where I'm assuming he's in either his late 20s or his early 30s. And so the film is one person's exploration of these 3 important parts of their life. But overall, it's really a study of sexuality in a toxic, male-driven environment where you're surrounded by people who feel like if you are a man, that masculinity and heteronormativity are the only way to live life, that being gay is something that's completely frowned upon. There's a beautiful conversation really early in the film between our lead character and Mahershala Ali's character, where he references a slur towards gay people and says, "What does this mean? And does that mean that's who I am?" And he essentially says, no, even if you are like this, even if you are gay, that you would never be that. You just embrace your identity. You know who you are. Janelle Monáe's character kind of reinforces that as well. And so we see these stages in this character's life and what he's going through and the struggles that he has to go through because of where he's growing up and because of implications of who you have to be in this type of environment. And I think Barry Jenkins handles it in a way that is so beautiful and nuanced and really just like heartbreaking to see, because you have this young kid seeing these feelings through the eyes of a child early on, where he's probably around 8 or 9 years old, seeing the interactions he has with friends. It's very innocent. It's very like, okay, I'm me. People seem to kind of have a problem with me. He has one friend who he's really close with that we see him grow up with through that time period. In his middle school, high school years, where he's coming a little bit more into himself and is starting to understand those feelings a little bit more, getting close to someone where you could be romantically involved with them, but knowing the ramifications and the repercussions of if you show that affection in person and how other people will treat you. He's bullied really heavily. He's called a lot of homophobic slurs. He's pushed around. He's beat up. And it has a really great dichotomy, because you see the negative side of it, but you also see the really beautiful sides and the tender moments throughout that, while still showing the relationship that he has with his mother, which I think Naomie Harris Harris, the actor who plays his mother, gives an absolutely phenomenal performance, just kind of showing that she doesn't really know where she is in her own life, and she abuses drugs and can't hold down a steady relationship, and she's trying to figure out life for herself, and you can tell she really never knew how to be a mother. And then in the third act, we see her character change in a very different way, and it's really interesting to see the growth and kind of like regression of these characters, because that you think it would be a steady growth, but it's not. And then our lead character and where he ends up in his older years, and just like how he got to this point and what drove him there. And then seeing this surrogate father character played by Mahershala Ali, and just the amount of impact that he had on his life, and just being a truly caring, loving individual, even though he's a drug dealer and he controls a lot of the drug operations in the area that they live. And I think all those complex emotional dynamics create a really amazing and moving and powerful experience that, as a member of the LGBTQ community, it really just speaks volumes, and it's absolutely beautiful. Every time I revisit this one, I just feel floored by it. I think the cinematography and the color palette in this movie is absolutely amazing. I love the different shades of blue throughout it, and just like the darker shades and the lighter shades, the way that Barry Jenkins uses the cinematography to kind of set the mood perfectly. It really has kind of lived through that and Beale Street. Beale Street has a lot of heavy uses of the color red. It's just really amazing how much a color used can really just kind of impact your whole viewing experience and immerse you in this world. And that's something that always has really impressed me about Moonlight, is just how beautiful the visuals and the cinematography are. I referenced some of the actors in this film, but getting 3 different actors to play a character at 3 different age groups, and to get them to look like the same person like over time, where it's not like so drastic of a shift that it's not believable, had to be a hard task. And all 3 actors give phenomenal performances that just really hit you hard. And I do still think the third act doesn't live up to the first 2 acts, especially the scene in the diner. It's kind of clunky, the pacing doesn't work as well for me, but this final scene in the movie is just so incredibly impactful and so beautiful and really hard hitting. And I think Barry Jenkins is just an absolutely phenomenal director that I hope to see more of. He hasn't done anything in a while outside of the Underground Railroad television show that he's worked on. I think he's slated to work on one of the Lion King projects in the near future, but I'd really love to see another unique vision from Barry Jenkins, because he's just an absolutely incredible director that really brings these beautiful romance stories that do have a level of tragedy to them, and a level of reality in the drama that just doesn't feel like Hollywood schlock. It feels very realistic and lived and beautiful. And Moonlight is a movie that will consistently be in my rotation for years to come. It's a movie that I think is incredibly important, pivotal in all of American cinema. I think it's one of A24's best, 100%. And if you have not seen Moonlight, this is my glaring recommendation. Go watch it immediately. So have you seen Moonlight? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I think this movie is absolutely brilliant. I think it's one of the greatest movies of all time. It's so well made, it's so well acted, it's so well directed, and I will recommend it to everyone. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, it helps me out a lot, lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.